I know it's cheesy music, huh?
That's good.
So, give it a few seconds. So we're streaming now. All right, we got people watching.
All right.
All right. Hello, everybody. This is Mark Nugent, and you are watching us live. Today, our guest is San Diego City Council candidate, U.S. Marine Corps Major Patrick Batten. Pat is currently keeping us safe in his day job as a U.S. Marine. As a retired U.S. Army officer myself, I find this really amazing to me. I personally hope more military members will get involved in politics and leadership in our country. And do you think most people agree with me?
I think they do. At least I'm hoping on election day.
Awesome. So let's get right into it. It'll take us about a good 10 to 15 minutes. Also, people are watching us. We are taking questions, so feel free to ask us questions. So go ahead and Pat can tell us a little bit about yourself, your biography, where you're from, all that stuff.
Okay. Well, a little bit about myself and background is that I am a husband and father of 4 children. I live in Rancho Bernardo, San Diego, graduate of San Diego State University. And as Mark talked about a little bit, is my background as a Marine is, I graduated from San Diego State University and actually started working in local government and politics. My first campaign was back in '98, and it was Darrell Issa for U.S. Senate, and worked through several different campaigns and experiences. But like most, after September 11th, it changed my perspective. It changed what mattered and what was important to me. And so I ran a campaign, and we ended that campaign. 4 days later, I put my feet on the yellow footprints, enlisted in the Marine Corps, and wrote a new chapter of our life. And I spent 10 years on active duty, deployed over to Iraq and Afghanistan. Had an incredible experience and loved the time and spending it with Marines. Got off of active duty, been in the reserves for the last 5 years, deployed again in 2016 from the reserves back over to participate in the fight against ISIS. Led 18 Marines that were in Iraq and Jordan and Kuwait. And got off of active duty then December 23rd of 2016. And, this is, to me, an opportunity to continue to serve my community, and that's why I'm here running for San Diego City Council. So I think that experience is a little bit different, like you said, but bringing that leadership and that experience to government is important. I think that we need more leaders like that, and that's part of the reason why I've decided to step up and run.
Awesome. Anything else?
Should we get into it?
We already have questions from Kristen Sands-Mana. She says, you can see it right there across our screen. So, hi, Kristen. How you doing? So
hi, Kristen.
It's right across the screen. So, what else we got going on? Kelly Ernby. She is currently running for California State Assembly, 74th District. She says, thank you for your service.
Thank you, Kelly.
And, okay, so we have multiple screens. Bear with me. We have all these questions. Jim Lear says, love you, brother. Appreciate everything you're doing for this country.
Thank you, Jim.
And then Kristen Sands-Mana, who's running for, I believe, Central Committee in OC. She says, I'm so happy you're running. And we got a good audience. We already got 18, 20 people starting to watch us. So we'll get into this also. Is there anything else that you'd like to add before we go into your website and everything else?
No, nothing yet. I mean, I think we'll touch base on a lot of it when we talk about some good stories and some of that military experience.
Awesome. So is there a website people can look at?
They can. Join me at www.patrickbatten.com.
Okay.
PatrickBatten.
Awesome. Well, I just pulled it up on the screen. They can see it now.
Okay, good.
Can people donate?
They can. There's a link there to donate. It'll take you over to a secondary page and fill out the information. And, unfortunately, campaigns still are about money, but $10, $25, anything helps.
Okay, so if someone wants to volunteer, how do they volunteer?
Up at the top of the website, there is a tab there for getting involved, and you can put your information there. It'll send the link to myself and the team,
Okay,
and we'll
right
get you.
So just put your email, and then you have like a weekly newsletter, something like that.
We do. We've got e-blast that we send out that keeps everybody updated.
Okay, awesome. So Kelly, we have a question coming across my screen. Kelly Ernby asks, what part of San Diego are you running in?
So we're running in District 5, which is currently occupied by Mark Kersey. He is term limited out after his 2 terms.
Okay.
And the community and the districts the communities that are represented in the district include Rancho Bernardo, where I live, Scripps, Rancho Penasquitos, Carmel Mountain, Camino del Sur, and a little bit, there's a little sliver up in the north called Rancho San Pascual.
Awesome. So we have a question I put across our screen. You can see it right there. Viet Tran says, as a former San Diegan, I proudly endorse your candidacy for City Council and will encourage all of my friends and neighbors to vote for you and contribute to your campaign, Major Batten.
Thank you, brother.
Again, there's the website to donate, patrickbatten.com if you want to donate. Are you monitoring your donations right now? We have another. I know we have another person in the out room. Are you going to get an email if there are donations?
Yes,
okay.
We will.
So if you guys donate right now, we will give you some applause right on the screen. So let us know, Pat, if someone donates to the campaign. So if you want to do a $10, $25 donation, help Pat out. And there you go. Okay. So we will actually answer you guys' questions first. We do have our own set of questions, but if you're, want to ask them a question, feel free. Major Pat Batten is not afraid to take questions live and unfiltered and raw. Believe it or not, actually some people have a phobia on this, but we'll move right along.
I think I face things more scary than that.
Did you know if you Google the top 10 fears, like public speaking, the fear of public speaking is above like the fear of death. So I'll be honest, I've been more afraid to give a speech than on a patrol.
Yeah, we've been, as military officers, we've been prepared to do that. I don't think that anybody's really truly prepared to give a speech until you do it. Mm-hmm. We spend a lot of time in the Marine Corps and for yourself in the Army, training on a daily basis with our Marines and soldiers and making sure that they're ready, and it gives us that sense of understanding and comfort knowing what we're going to do when you're standing up there in front of other people. Yep.
So we got a question across our screen. Kristen says, I'm interested in helping your campaign. What kind of campaigning can we do if we are outside of your area or the area?
Well, first, obviously, we'll hit it several times, but any, financial contribution is helpful. But what we can also do is help with the social media, continuing to share posts, like the Patrick Batten for City Council webpage, like the Facebook, follow there. Continue to reach out to friends and family and let them know that there's a good candidate that's running and it's going to bring some leadership to City Council and San Diego. So a lot of it, you may have friends that live in the district, you may have friends that live in San Diego, and it's important just to let everybody know firsthand knowledge of your experience and why you're supporting me.
Oh, you can also share this broadcast.
Absolutely. Yeah. So right now you can share this broadcast on Facebook, and hopefully we can, pick up more viewers.
Awesome. We got a good number right now. Okay. All right. Can you tell us a little more about yourself? Do you have have a dog by any chance? Or
I do.
Pets or
I've
hobbies?
I've got 2 dogs. As a artilleryman in the Marine Corps, my dog's name is Gunner, and my other dog's name is Molly.
Okay. I think we have a picture of your dog. There you go.
There we go. That's us at the Spirit of the 4th of July parade in Rancho Bernardo. Gunner hanging out there in the back of the Mustang. But we had a good time there. We've been doing this parade for years. Just a fun time to get out there with family and friends and see each other and say hi.
Okay, when was that?
That was this year at the 4th of July.
Okay, while we're doing pictures, you want to go through the other ones?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, so what other cool pictures we have here? Hopefully, I should have labeled them before we started. So, okay, that one, okay. So this one, can you tell us about this photo that's on your website?
Yeah, that was out in Jordan. And so in in Jordan, we were training Army officers from the Jordanian Army. Unique experience teaching them how we do things in the Marine Corps, building that relationship. And one of the roles that I have in jobs is it's what's called a JTAC, which is a Joint Terminal Attack Controller. We are the guys that are out there in the fight, talking to the aircraft, controlling fires, and bringing fires and dropping bombs on the enemy. And so we were out there with the Jordanians, training them how to do that. And when we were sitting there with them, you build this relationship and this bond, which is quite interesting, from their background and perspective. And the first thing I think you need to do to be able to be effective is to be able to gain that perspective of what's important to them and how to reach out and how to connect with them. So had a great experience out there and training with those guys. We still keep in touch, luckily, through social media.
Cool. Let's move on to the next photo. So can you tell me about this one?
So this is at MCRD San Diego, and hanging out with a couple of my fellow cannon cockers. I was asked to run the boot camp challenge, and that was the first time that I had been back in the training area at MCRD San Diego since I was a recruit. So it was quite the experience, running back through there, going through the obstacles again 15 plus years later. Enjoyed it, but it was a nice chance to see some of the Marines and talk to them, and how their experience as young Marines in the artillery community is coming along.
Awesome. Excuse me. So what other photos we have? I think we have a couple other we need to go to. Was that the last one? Oh, there's one more.
Yeah, this is us back out in Jordan, and you actually can see in that picture that you have a Jordanian Cobra. The two gentlemen there in the background are Jordanian officers, a lieutenant and a captain, and there's another controller that is talking to that aircraft as he's beginning his gun run. They're doing rockets and guns on this one. So it was a good experience, training them and over-the-shoulder controlling, working with the Jordanians and seeing how they're learning some of our tactics and techniques and improving. And the real purpose why we were doing that out there was because then we're just south of the Syrian-Jordanian border. And during the time that we were there, the Jordanians actually were attacked with a vehicle-borne IED. And they have to actually be able to protect themselves. We're not going to always be there for them. So having that experience to train with them and make them better prepared to defend themselves against enemies that we have in common was just an incredible experience.
Awesome. So we had some more questions.
Okay.
So we'll get to the audience questions first before we go to our...
Yeah.
So what is something the city of San Diego can do to help tackle the homeless crisis that is currently gripping California? Before you answer, I also just want to add isn't that more of a state and county issue? But I know it also, you have to work with city council on this.
It is. The issue is an issue that faces all of us, and I think the city of San Diego is probably the public face for it because that's where you're seeing it. You're seeing it on our streets. You're seeing it in downtown San Diego and in other areas. And while the issue is shared, we still need to make sure we have strong leadership on that issue at City Council.
Okay. So Price Robinson, there's the answer to your question. All right, we have another one. Keith says, 15 years active Marine, thank you. What's your political experience?
So my experience is that before joining the Marine Corps, I actually ran campaigns. I was in Sacramento as a legislative director for an assembly member. I was a political director on different campaigns, campaign manager for assembly, for state senate. So I have campaign experience and I have legislative experience working on different policy issues. Prior to joining the Marine Corps, I've always stayed involved, but no political experience running as a candidate. This is the first time, and it's been a great experience so far.
I would say being a military officer isn't that a bit political as well?
It certainly is.
You still have a big group of people, even as a lieutenant, that look out for you. You got to have an appearance. You have to lead this group of people, and you're a major, so I assume you had company command time and a lot of platoon leader time.
Yeah, you do. And, and the experience of being a Marine officer, and politics, it's not just the organizational leadership that you have. It's how are you going to lead in a group that's different, that's joint, that is, multinational,
Diverse,
and
yeah.
diverse. And I'll tell you a little story. Is when I was in Afghanistan. Our team out there, we were an advisor team, and my job was to work with our team, but also transition as we were preparing to leave. And you had the British that was in charge of the base that we operated on. They provided us the security, and they wanted to leave faster than any of us. They just needed to get out of Dodge, which would have then left us unprotected and unsecured.
Are you allowed to say what base you were on? I'm sorry to interrupt you.
It was Lashkar Gah down in Helmand Province in Afghanistan.
Awesome. Heard it's nice this time of year over there.
Yeah, it's nice, comfortable if you like that weather.
So you could be a tour guide. Second career, be a tour guide in Afghanistan.
Absolutely. So how do you take your objectives as Marines and how does that mesh with theirs? And it takes some of that subtle leadership that you require to explain. Look, we both have diverse objectives right now, but we have to make sure that we're still working there.
So is it fair to say, if you can work with a multinational force through different countries, different echelons, that city council will probably be very easy in comparison?
I think it'll be very similar in the sense that you're going to have to be there to problem solve. Everybody is there for a different reason. They come from a different background. So that is where I think you get a lot of experience in how to solve issues together collectively to benefit.
Okay, awesome. Well, looks like we have another question, which seems like they're really synchronized with what we're saying, because that's like literally my next question is I was going to ask why you're going on to be on city council. And then Price Robinson, one of our audience in this town hall, is asking you, I appreciate your answer to my previous question. What inspired you to want to run for office?
To me, this campaign is about community first. We've lived in this community for a long time and are raising our family in the community. My wife's parents were actually the first residents in the community that we live in, Westwood. They moved there in 1968. My wife was born and raised there. We've got our children now that we're raising in the community. In 2007, I was deployed to Iraq, and that's when the fires broke out in Rancho Bernardo. And there was nothing I could do. Completely helpless as my wife and family and kids are being evacuated. But it was that community that came together to make sure that they were taken care of. They helped to get them packed up, made sure that they were safe, looked after them. And so for me, this is an opportunity to continue to serve the community that has served me and my family so well. And I'm hoping for that opportunity to continue to work together.
On that, so you may have covered it before, but anyone that's joining us, why did you choose San Diego to be your home?
I don't know if I chose San Diego to be my home. It's why I've kept it as my home is because of that community, because the spirit of San Diego. Everybody that you meet here, that comes to here, we're looking to raise our family, and what makes our schools, what makes our communities, so incredible is really the fact that we're all involved, and it's that community involvement that makes San Diego so special. So when I had many opportunities to leave San Diego, there was just no way I was going to, and that's just because it's just a great place to live, a great place to raise your family, and we want to keep it that way.
Awesome. We had another question that had come across one of my screens. I'm sorry, I missed it, Kristen. Kristen asks, do you have any fundraising events that are coming up in the future, and can she attend?
Yeah, we do, and probably the best way, because we have several that are coming up, is to get on the website at patrickbatten.com, sign up there, and we'll continue to update everybody as to what's going on, and we'll send out our e-blast and invites, as well as joining us on the Patrick Batten for San Diego City Council Facebook page.
That's the Get Involved tab. If they want to know about
get
that.
involved there, and then we continuously update everybody about what's coming up. Off the top of my head, I know that we have an event coming up at City Council member Barbara Warden's house in the district. She was a representative here, and I think that is coming up on December 8th. But that's why it's better that you get on there, because you'll be able to get the updates better than me remembering my calendar off the top of my head.
All right, I'll put a link real quick on the below if you want to keep talking.
Okay.
I'm just going to type into the comment section.
Price talked a little bit about homeless, and I'd like to go back a little bit to talk about that and share some of my experience. When I was younger growing up, my father left when I was 3. So it was my mother and I, growing up together. And my mom did what she could to provide for us, and she worked hard. And eventually she, she went back to school. She got her nursing license. She worked several jobs. But we moved around a lot because we couldn't afford a lot of things. There were periods of time when I was not unsheltered, but we didn't have a place to live. We lived in motels. We lived with family and friends until we could find someplace else that we could stay. And coming from that background and experience, I understand the humanitarian crisis that we're facing here with the homeless situation. The city of San Diego is doing an awful lot to help that situation. We just opened up a 4th bridge shelter, and we've got some great support and endorsements from some of the leaders out there in the community that are helping on those issues to fight the homelessness. And we need to make sure that we're paying close attention to that, even at the city. Even though most of the resources do come from the state and the county, it's the city. And what we have to be able to do is provide those resources and connect those that are suffering as homeless into other temporary housing to get them into permanent housing, etc. As well as the mental health issues that are there, and providing those resources.
Okay. We have another question. Make sure we pay attention to the audience here. Jier Lim asks question, what is the first thing you will do for the city of San Diego when elected?
The first thing that we're going to do when we're elected is we're going to continue to address the issues that we have there. But some of the crises that we have coming up right now in the city of San Diego is we've got a huge financial crisis that's on the horizon. Just released this week, $83 million is what we're anticipating the deficit will be in the upcoming year.
Wow. And
And that does not include a single pay raise for a single city employee. So we've got some financial issues that are sitting there right there for us to tackle. And so the first thing I'm going to do is get involved in some of those decisions, start working with the communities and making sure that we're still providing the basics that we need to as a city, that we're still be able to provide law enforcement and public safety, that we're still able to pave our roads and provide infrastructure improvements and continue to fight some of the issues that we're facing on the homeless issue and keeping those in the front of our mind. The challenge becomes, though, is that when you have such a deficit that you're not going to be able to provide the basics that's there. So the first thing I plan on doing is being involved in the fiscal policy that we have coming forward.
You're skipping forward to my questions. So anyway, I know you have 15 years in the military, Marine Corps officer. I know just to be at that, you have had to have managed and supervised budgets. Is that fair to say?
Yes, absolutely.
And so you've got experience in that. And I do know from my experience, if you lose a few cents, you're going to jail in the military.
Yes.
So I want you to talk about some of your budgetary experience and fiscal responsibility in regards to city council that you just mentioned, because you hit on $83 million budget deficit. And I think that's important to talk about, have someone that's smart with budgets and experience with that.
It is. And talk about one just related experience. I remember when I was at 5th Anglico over in Okinawa. We did a lot of different training, a lot of multinational training. We traveled to different countries. So our budget was incredibly large in terms of what we produced every year. One of the training exercises that we had was to go to the U.S., send over 130 of our Marines. And the previous year, it ended up costing us $5 million for that exercise alone.
Okay.
That was $5 million that was not budgeted for that exercise, which blew our budget up, which meant that we had to cut back on different training in other areas. So part of it, the way that we solved that was forward thinking after we realized what we had in the previous year. put forward then a 24-month training program that then put together all of our budget and made sure that it was covered. So it was about prioritizing the situation. And then where we were able to save almost $500,000 on this was by looking at different solutions. And oddly enough, it became cheaper to use commercial airline to fly our 130 Marines from Okinawa, Japan to Ontario, California, and then take a bus up to a training area, and using that commercial rather than using military air. So just thinking a little bit outside the box as well as forward thinking and planning.
We had similar experiences being a logistics officer,
Yep.
budgeting the food.
Yeah.
MREs are more expensive than private catered events. Most people talk about $7, $7, $8 MRE these days.
Yeah.
Something like that, and you can get meals down to $3 or $4 that are like, actually probably like steaks and really good.
Actually
good stuff.
edible.
Yeah. Yeah. The bad food is actually more expensive.
Yeah. You know, obviously it's because those meals have to last and you've got to take them forward with you, and you can't pack a steak into your rucksack.
Mhm.
So, you know, it costs a lot to be able to dehydrate and then rehydrate that food.
Awesome. So I got a bunch more questions here. So is this your first run at public office, or have you ran before? And follow-up question to that, and is how has your experience been versus your expectation of the campaign and, you know, the insider politics stuff that we find so interesting?
You know, it is my first campaign that I have been the candidate. You know, I've run other campaigns and worked on campaigns, won some, lost some, and those experiences, each one of them are unique. But it is incredibly unique to be on the other side of the camera, on the other side of the phone, on the other side of the issue. You know, when you're the campaign manager and your candidate isn't doing what you think they should be doing, you sit there and you go, "Come on, you know, that's stay on message, stay focused." Now, when I make a mistake, the only thing that I can do is look in the mirror and say the same thing to myself, because I'm the one ultimately that's responsible.
I found that being a supporting member of a campaign is a lot more fun than being the actual candidate. That's my experience.
Absolutely.
So going into that, what got you into politics in the first place?
You know, what got me into politics when I was younger was my upbringing. As I mentioned, you know, it was my mother and I. We had some very difficult challenges that we faced. You know, I went to 12 different schools, to include 4 separate high schools. We moved between 3 and 17, almost 25 different times. Very challenging upbringing. And the one thing that I realized was that government is not the solution to those problems. Providing welfare is not a solution to those problems. And to me, getting involved in politics was a way that I could help others not have to suffer from those challenges that I had as a child. And that's what pushed me towards politics when I was a young man.
Awesome. So what did your family say when you wanted to run for office? Were they say you're crazy? They're supportive?
You know, my wife was the chief of staff to a city council member for several years, and finished a very tough campaign. And her comment to me was, you know, now I can't go home. And I said, I'm not kicking you out of the house. She had to explain to me, no, there's now going to be no escape. This campaign will be 24/7. At least on the other campaign, I could always go home, and I had a little bit of refuge. So she understands, you know, family has always been involved in politics and government. So it's not that big of a change for them, but the fact that it's personal makes it different.
Okay, so hate to repeat this again. I know I see some people joining us. If you guys want to learn more about Patrick Batten, go to patrickbatten.com. And if you want to donate to his campaign, even $10 or $15, $25, click that red donate button. So, and also you can meet Patrick, learn more about him at that website. And also, where do they go if they want to volunteer?
So up at the top, there is a Get Involved tab at the patrickbatten.com website. And, you know, we can, you know, we'll plug you in. We will be, you know, we are walking precincts, and we are, you know, reaching out to voters. And there's really just nothing more valuable than retail politics and talking to somebody face to face.
Okay, so if you want to donate, click that button right there. Even $10. I'm not sure if we got any donations yet so far, but if we do, we'll let you guys know. Okay, so so other question was, I know you're still in the military for at least probably a few more years.
A few more years, yeah.
Are they supportive? Do they even care if you're running? I mean,
My Marines have been incredibly supportive. You know, Marine Corps is not very political in nature. Most of them have um, different viewpoints, but we really don't share a lot of those viewpoints. But when one of our own gets into the campaign, it's important and it's special to us. So it's been incredible to have my Marines and friends that I served with that are supporting me.
Yeah, I'm gonna name drop and also upset some Republicans at the same time. I was out of Hawaii, right? So
Yeah.
Tulsi Gabbard was in my circle. I mean, I wasn't close to her, but I've had communications direct with that person, and she's a major also in the Army out in Hawaii, National Guard.
Okay.
So I've had communications with her and her back in a while ago, and then we also we had another one. He was a congressman, and he was in our unit. He was one of our JAG officers.
Okay.
And he was a reservist, and also he was a congressman. So he went there in a civilian status to like see a unit off for deployment. He would actually outrank, I guess, the general, his own commanding general that was there. That was interesting. That was Charles DeJoux. He was a U.S. congressman out of Hawaii. So, also, real quick, I'm kind of already talked about it, but I kind of want to go in order because I'm not familiar with San Diego. What are your council district boundaries? Do you call them districts or trustee areas or something else?
Districts. We've got 9 districts in the city of San Diego, and I'm running for District 5. And our boundaries are Rancho Bernardo, Scripps, PQ, Carmel Mountain, and Camino del Sur make up the largest populations in the district.
Okay. Does San Diego elect a mayor directly, or does the city council members that rotate into that position?
City of San Diego, we directly elect our mayor in a citywide election, and mayor is up for election, or the mayor's seat is up for election. The current mayor is term limited out, and so we have several candidates that are running and 2 top tier candidates that are in this race.
Awesome. So where's your victory party?
At this point in time, I think we're going to be doing our victory party down the street from us at Abnormal Brewing, which is in Rancho Bernardo. Local owned and operated, and serves some great beer.
Is there a primary for San Diego City Council, or is it?
It is. So this election cycle will be top 2. It's a nonpartisan race, and so the primary is March 3rd, 2020, and the top 2 will go off to the general election in November.
Awesome. As another reminder, we're taking questions live, so if you want to ask Pat a question, type it out and click send. Also remember to share the broadcast, and you can learn more about Pat at patrickbatten.com. That's PATRICKBATTEN.com. You can volunteer and donate that website. So a standard question I asked pretty much all candidates, but you're very unique being a military veteran or still in the military. And I hope this question is received well. For me personally, as a 20-year veteran of the U.S. Army, and my own daughter joined the Army probably next year after high school, veterans issues are very important to me. Can you tell me a little about your support for veterans other than you obviously are one of us?
Yeah, absolutely. The hardest part that I had as a veteran was the transition from active duty in trying to return back to society. And it's a challenge, and that's one of the areas that I think is more important, is how do we take our soldiers and veterans that have gone out, fought for us, defended our countries, foreign, and abroad, and then back here, and become part of society again. That was the biggest challenge that I faced, and one of the areas that we need to continue to engage with is how do we bring those soldiers, Marines, sailors, airmen back and get them hired. So I work with some different groups and organizations that help with that. We've got a great organization in San Diego called the Veterans Beer Club. And it's just an opportunity for transitioning veterans to come out, have a beer with veterans that have already transitioned that are looking to hire. And it's just a social hour once a month, and different things of that nature. And we need to make sure that we're continuing to engage in those veterans to help them. I hope that everybody has seen General Mattis's recent commercial that said, if you want to honor your veterans, the best way is to help and provide them with a job.
I agree.
Absolutely right.
I totally agree. You should come up to the VBN, Veteran Business Network of Orange County sometime.
Absolutely.
It's third Thursday of the month, usually on Newport Beach area.
Okay.
At the VFW over there.
I would love to. I will be your guest.
Speaking of that, what'd you do for this recent Veterans Day?
So this Veterans Day, we started out locally, and I had the honor and privilege of being the flag bearer for our local veterans ceremony at Webb Park in Rancho Bernardo. The VFW puts that on every year, and it's just a great opportunity for the community to get together. And we'll have Army veterans and Navy veterans and Marine veterans, of course, and Coast Guard, and we bring out each one of the flags, march them up, set them in place. We have a guest speaker, and it's a great opportunity for the community to be part of that network, and helps make the veterans then also be part of the community. So that was the first, and then we went to Mount Soledad to see some friends, and it's always an opportunity. Mount Soledad down in San Diego is where we've got the cross, and you've got these plaques around the entire location, and so I get my chance to go and see some friends that are no longer with us, and pay respects, and then there's the wonderful ceremony there. And then after that, we did like most everybody else, is we had a barbecue at home and just enjoyed spending time with family.
Awesome. Are there, you spoke earlier about homeless issues. Do you have any specific veterans homeless issues in San Diego?
We absolutely do. Homeless issues in San Diego. San Diego right now has the second largest population of veteran homeless in the U.S. And that obviously it's an issue near and dear to my heart as well as yours. You've got a veteran that has served his country or served her country, and finds themselves on the street, whether that is caused by drugs, whether it's caused by mental illness and PTSD, whether it's caused by not being able to find a job. There's several different reasons that they find themselves in that situation, but we need to make sure that we're providing them with the resources to help them.
Okay, so John Park, who actually is a community leader and former city council candidate himself, he says, "Thank you for your service. Why do you think most career military men and women consider themselves Republican? Of course, not all, but this is a very common theme." And I would agree with John Park.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. Most of the veterans and Marines and soldiers that I served with, I would say that the majority of them is the majority identifies as Republicans, and I think it's because the philosophy of to me, what makes you a Republican? It's teaching a man to fish is more important than giving a man a fish. And we serve in the military because we are out there fighting for our principles. We're fighting for our values, and we think that if you're, it's important to make sure that you're standing up on your own 2 feet, and we're providing you with opportunities to do that. And that I think is the reason. It's a little bit of the limited government, but it's really self-sufficiency, and it's the fact that we just have stood up for our country and defended it. And we're not looking for somebody to give us something in return.
Most of my friends also, usually it's about giving each other jobs and opportunities. I almost never, off my memory, have had a veteran or someone I worked with call me and ask for something for free.
No.
They've always want, hey, I'm working here, I'm trying to network, get a job, almost every single time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, awesome.
It's part of our ethos.
I think so. I hope that answers your question, John. And John Park, if you want to donate, patrickbatten.com. Throw the website up real quick here as we go to our next questions. So there's the website right there, patrickbatten.com. All right. What type of questions have you been getting from the constituents on the campaign show so far? What are some of the general questions you've been receiving from the community?
The biggest issue has been homelessness. Even in our district does not have a large homeless population, but it's a humanitarian issue that affects all of us. That's still the number one issue. We get a lot of questions of how are we going to solve and work on those issues. Some of it is they ask me about my background. They want to know a little bit about my military experience. They want to know about my community experience, and having been a little league coach and a soccer coach for my girls when they were younger. They want to know that. They want to understand why and how they connect with you. And I think that in this district, that's why we've been so successful so far, is that we do connect with others incredibly well.
Awesome. So what are some of the solutions for some of the questions you've been getting from constituents? that you think?
On the homeless issue, the one answer I think that we can provide at the City of San Diego is we can continue to provide resources and connect those that are homeless with resources that are helping. It's also a major issue with the mental health issues, and the City of San Diego needs to work closely with the County of San Diego. The state of California has given us a few new tools, and one of them is how we look at conservatorship, and we need to make sure that we are addressing that properly and making sure that if you have a mental health illness, that we are able to get you the resources that you need. They're out there. We need to make sure that we connect.
Awesome. So I guess it's fair to say your focus is on solutions over pointing fingers, I think.
Absolutely. You can't point a finger without having what, they say, four coming back at you. So, when you're out there, it's really about problem solving. And that's what I take the most from my military experience, is that what makes us successful in the Marine Corps is just the fact that we work together to solve a problem. And we talk about the fact that a 70% solution now is better than a 100% solution later.
Yeah.
And it's being able to act, it's being able to decide, it's being able to make tough decisions. And making tough decisions isn't about addressing blame, it's about solving a problem.
I appreciate that. So what kind of speaking engagements have you been doing on the campaign?
We've had opportunities to go to different coffees and neighbors' houses, and we've had chances to get in front of some small groups as well as some large groups. And every time you go out there, it's a little bit different. You start to feel a little bit more comfortable as you're the person talking about it. But I've really enjoyed the feedback and the response that I've gotten from the community. It is appreciative that when you go out there and you put yourself on the line, when you hear from people, thank you for your service, thank you for wanting to seek office for city council.
Yeah, it's not a pleasant experience. So bless you for wanting to do that. So do you have any like funny stories or anything that's like crazy that's happened you want to share from your speaking engagements? I mean, what's been the best speaking engagement, the worst? Anything pop out in your mind?
I don't know if I've had any funny experiences yet. Luckily, I haven't created and had too many faux pas.
Yeah.
With the experiences, I think that the best has just been when I go out there and I tell my story and I talk about my background and what the issues are that are important to myself as well as to our community. What's been incredible has just been the response back. I've had handwritten notes sent to me. I've had emails sent to me, and a lot of people just saying, we're praying for you, we're supporting you, thank you for doing this, and it's very encouraging.
Awesome. Yeah. Before I get to this question across our screen, I've actually, when I was door knocking for school board years ago, I had people greet me with hugs, write me checks on the spot for a donation. I didn't even ask for something. Like, here's write your check for your donation. So,
it's really encouraging when you have somebody that's willing to do that when you've just met them, because you're telling your story and what you're trying to do for the community.
Awesome. So Greg Paul has a question here. Oftentimes it is, or I'm not sure if it's a question, more of a comment, but I'll go ahead and read it for you. Oftentimes it is homeless people who do not want to take advantage of devices that are available and continue to be obstructions to other members of the community and law enforcement. Can the city do something about these individuals? And as you're thinking about that, I just wanted to comment. Usually I find homelessness comes into 4 categories: substance abuse, mental illness, just down on their luck temporarily, and then people that refuse services. Yeah. Greg, I believe, is talking about the 4th category, that refuse services. So that's a very complex issue. I guess the floor is yours. So.
It is. It's an incredibly complex issue because you have a lot of different factors that are playing into this, and a lot of different organizations that are pushing on this. Mm-hmm. And it makes it challenging to then even just be able to enforce some of the laws and rules that we have on our books. For instance, there's been a couple of rulings in the state of California that doesn't allow you to remove homeless from the street. Tell them that they cannot live on the street if you do not provide them a place to keep all of their personal possessions and all the beds are filled up, etc. So there's some legal challenges that we've had.
We've had that in Orange County to enforce the anti-camping ordinance, but I guess our county has given them a place to go, so they're able to enforce that. We gave them like free hotel rooms, But we had about 400 in the county that refused services. So they didn't know what to do with them.
Yeah, and so that's where the challenge is in the city of San Diego is what do you do in those situations where you are providing the bed spaces, you're providing the storage space, and you're doing everything that you need to, yet people still are refusing. And that's, it's unfortunate that you have to explain to people, and we are enforcing those laws in the city of San Diego, and we have to continue to enforce those. It's difficult because law enforcement has a job that is greater than just enforcing some of these regulations on homeless, but it becomes important for the entire community.
Also, you have a comment, I believe probably one of your friends, Robert, says, "This is awesome, brother." So,
thank you, Bobby.
So if Bobby, if you really want to help him out, share the broadcast. Okay, so all right, I got some more comments. Trying to bring attention to the fact that you actually do this, so hopefully I'm not repeating myself too much here. Some people get stage fright publicly speaking. Even some politicians are amazing at speaking on stage, but they are terrified about live streaming, which it's a new thing. It's something you have to do now.
Yeah.
So what's your thoughts on that?
I think that my thought is try not to think too much about
it. Well, I just want to bring attention to that you're willing to do it and someone else isn't. It shows your courage. And I want to bring attention to the fact that you're willing to do this, come on live and answer questions. And I think it shows your honesty and courage. Correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't it take courage to be afraid of something and do it anyway? Is that the definition? I haven't Googled it.
I think it is. I mean, if you were to ask me, I would agree with that definition. Okay. All of us have our own, fears and our own, issues that we deal with, and we overcome those on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. I'm not that incredibly pleased with heights. But
all of the council meetings are ground floor, I think, right?
Yes, exactly. Now that doesn't mean that I haven't been in locations that make me feel very uncomfortable. Okay. But you have to do it. You just have to overcome some of those fears, and it makes you a better person for it.
Yeah, I just want to bring that attention in case someone for the first time is meeting you live. They're sitting at home in San Diego, and they're like, "Who is this guy, Patrick Batten?" Well, one thing's for sure, at least he'll talk to me.
Yeah.
Because that's a lot of people. They just every now and then might only need a city council member once or twice in their life, not something all the time. And sometimes it's just simple as I want to talk to my council member about a pothole. Or in our recent time, the mayor in Irvine helped us get a crosswalk at my kid's school after a little kid was hit. Yep. So that's a sad story. But the good thing is we got it. The kid's okay now, but we got the crosswalk. So, and the community members, now they're just fine with their lives and they're not going to bother the mayor anymore. But the city council took care of that for us, which was awesome. So I just wanted to bring that to you that you're talking to people. And that's just something I just wanted to bring out that's good to say about you.
Well, I appreciate that. It's one of the parts of the campaign that I enjoy the most is getting out there in the community and talking to people. And it's not just because I want to give my message and what's important to me. I want to hear what's important from them. It makes me a stronger candidate, and it makes me a better representative for them.
Okay, awesome. So I got an optional question here, but I say optional because I don't like to speak of negatives. So I wrote this question out. What has been your best and worst day in politics so far? We can say simply the best. We don't have to talk about the worst day, but up to you if you want to answer that one.
Yeah, I've had a lot of different experiences. I would say one of this was an issue when I was working in Sacramento as a legislative director, was that we got our first bill passed and signed by the governor. That was probably one of the cooler experiences that I've had, and what it was that you've got these. It was to change a small regulation that would help protect our children, and we had you've had those very large buses, and the regulation said that you couldn't have anything over 30 feet, and so we changed the laws that allow that you can extend it out. So now you have those crossing arms, because the buses now have that flat front. Yep. You couldn't see. So what we allowed was that when you stop on some of these larger buses where you can't see down, the crossing arm is allowed to come out, and that's not calculated. It seems so simple, but you had to have a state law to change this. Because unfortunately the year before in the district, a child walked in front of the bus to cross the streets, and their life was taken. So to be able to do that and prevent another child from being injured, and just allowing school districts that opportunity to put that in there. We didn't regulate it, but we deregulated
Oh,
the
wow.
restriction. So to have my first piece of legislation that benefited the community was a great experience.
Well, thank you for sharing that. So I just want to ask a general question. We had one comment too. I just wanted to, Bobby, you said cure, so I'm not sure what. It's just a statement. I just want to acknowledge the audience said that.
He was changing up there. It says, "What can we do at the city level to help cure the housing crisis?"
Okay, so okay, I missed the question. So
Yeah.
I'll let you answer that before we go on.
You know, the housing crisis is something that we face here in the city of San Diego, probably at a larger level than some of the other communities in the state of California. We've got a housing deficit of over 160,000 homes that we need to build here. For some of us that are lucky to be homeowners, it's great because our home values continue to rise. For others that want to find a home and want to be able to raise their family here in San Diego, it's an absolutely horrible crisis that they can't raise their families here because they can't afford it. So besides the basic information that we can do to speed along some of the housing projects that we have in San Diego and reduce some of the regulations, what we really have to focus on is explaining the positive impacts of these development, because when somebody opposes a development, the reason why is because they're concerned about how will that impact my community, how will it impact my family, how will it impact me. So we have to make sure that we address those issues at the city of San Diego.
Okay, so you can actually, okay, got it. So, yeah, we have the same thing in Irvine too, in Orange County, that there's people that want affordable housing or more housing, and then there's a big group of people that don't want anything. They don't want.
Yeah.
So how do you remedy that? How do you address that? And it's the supply and demand. If there's more housing, they get cheaper.
That's right.
And if you get less houses, they cost more.
But when you're the homeowner and the houses get cheaper, then you've made a huge investment. So that you start to have this fight between back and forth sometimes, and that's where you get this new movement now of YIMBYs that are younger. And YIMBY standing for Yes in My Backyard, that they would like to be able to build more housing. They would like to be able to raise their families in our community. I'm a father of 4 children. My oldest child is getting ready to go off college next year. I'll tell a little bit of a funny background story. Is that as an Irishman, even though I went to San Diego State, I've always been a Notre Dame fan, and I wanted my daughter to go to Notre Dame. And she was about 12 years old, and she comes home and she says, "Dad, did you know Notre Dame is in Indiana?" And I said, "Yes, I do." And she said, "And you still want me to go?" And I said, "I do." I said, "But after college, I want you to come back home." The problem now is if she does go off to Notre Dame or UCLA or UC Santa Barbara, wherever she's looking to go to school at, how does she come home to be able to afford a house in San Diego? It's incredibly difficult to start a family here in San Diego when there's not enough homes and the cost is so high. Yeah. We have to increase the supply in San Diego. Okay. But in order to do that, we have to make some big reforms in San Diego. We also have to make sure that the community understands that by building more houses, it is not just going to damage your property value. It's not going to bring down your quality of life.
Also, there's a lot of people also I think would argue traffic as well.
Absolutely, and that's how you address a lot of that issues and concern is the infrastructure. And so in San Diego right now, we've got this big fight going on between transit and transportation. Do we fund transit or do we fund roads? Mm-hmm. I think it's a losing argument to say either or. We have to be able to do both. If you're going to be supporting of a transit system, in San Diego, our biggest transit system is the busing, MTS. If you've got a choice from where we live in Rancho Bernardo and Scripps and PQ, and you've got a job that you need to get to, there is no trolley to take us down the 15 corridor. You have to take a bus. And I know that some would rather prefer to take a bus, but if you had a choice between sitting in your car for 2 hours of traffic or sitting in a bus for 2 hours of traffic, people are going to choose to sit in their own personal car to be by themselves. Yeah. So having no roads being built, not solving that problem of the traffic situation, you're absolutely destroying the transit opportunities.
Now, I'm going to talk about, I just want to dig into that on the, for schools, because, more people, more kids, more schools. I don't know anything really about the San Diego schools. Are they impacted? Are they overcrowded?
We've actually had, in our district, in District 5, we have had lowering enrollments taking place. And some of that is because we're not increasing the numbers of housing in our district. And so families, as they're maturing and they're getting older, younger families are not able to move into the district to raise their families. So we're having a declining population of students.
So would the school boards or a school board, I'm not sure how many school districts there are, would be supportive of development so they want more kids to go to schools, right?
They do, and some of them are supportive of development. We've got a little bit older families that kind of their children have moved on and they would like to have the opportunity to have their grandchildren come here because frankly we don't all want to go out to Arizona to visit our grandchildren. So there's a little bit of both. And the school districts do support some of that development in the communities, but we have to do it right.
We have a comment real quick. I mean to interrupt you. I just want to make sure. Isaac Wang says, "You're doing great. Great job using new technology to reach people."
Thank you, Isaac. I appreciate it. I hope everything's going well for you on the campaign trail as well.
So I just wanted to remind you guys, a little quick break here. Reminder, we're taking questions live. So if you want to ask Pat a question, type it out and click send. Also remember to share the broadcast. You can learn more about Patrick Batten at patrickbatten.com. That's PATRICKBATTN.com. You can volunteer and donate at the website right there that you see in front of you. All right, I got a bunch more questions for you. I'm not sure how long you want to go tonight, but we still got a good, decent-sized audience. Okay, so there you go. So you got any commentary on any other races going on?
We've got a race down south of our district there in District 7, and I would love to say, that we need to be out there supporting pro-business candidates that understand these issues. And I personally am supporting Noli Zosa, who is running for that seat. He's going to have he has a tough race, but it's important that we have somebody that is a business owner, that is a community leader, and that truly represents that district well, and Noli does. I think it's important when you have these seats that the candidate that is the best candidate really is the one that comes from that community, has been in the community, understands the issues, and is part of that. And similar to my background, Noli is the same down there. I serve on the Rancho Bernardo Community Council. Noli serves down there on the Linda Vista Planning Group. He's been involved, for a long time, and it's important that we support those types of candidates.
Awesome. So, little quick point of talking point here. Orange County is seen as very patriotic in general speaking. How is it, you think, compared to San Diego?
I don't know. I know that you guys do a great job on Flag Day and other opportunities and Veterans Day to represent there. San Diego, we have an incredibly strong and proud history of supporting our military and veterans. In fact, it is our number one driver of our economy here in San Diego is the military.
Awesome. So you mentioned something before I wanted to point out about trust, another candidate. You were in the Marines for 15 years, and you multiple deployments. So I'd say the numbers of Marines and their families that trust the Marines with their lives through multiple deployment is probably in the hundreds. So if they're willing to trust you with their lives, I'm sure a lot of people can trust you with leading a city. So I just wanted to point that out.
I appreciate that. And that has been the greatest privilege and honor in my life is to lead those Marines. Not just in combat, but helping them become better individuals. Helping better their life. It's a special bond and relationship that you build in the military, and that trust.
Okay, that goes in. I'm sorry, into my next question. This was a bit of a long one, but you can look in your paper if you want. So the question is that I wanted to talk about is, can you translate your military service as a leader and officer in the Marines into civilian terms, civilian can understand? But before you answer that, I want to read something I read on your website today that jumped out at me, and I want to read it for the audience. And you stated, during my service, I trained and advised foreign militaries, including Afghanistan, Austria, Britain, Iraq, Jordan, South Korea, and Thailand. My combat experiences in Iraq and Afghanistan, as well as operations around the globe, have shaped my values and my ability to lead. So then I'll read back to my initial question. Can you translate your service as a military officer into civilian terms?
Yeah, what I talk about really in that statement is the fact that you get out there and you build relationships, and that's what it's all about. When I'm over there and I was working with somebody in Afghanistan, in Afghanistan, I'm a 35-year-old, and I'm there advising a colonel in the Afghanistan police, and they've been fighting since I was about 3-4 years old when the Russians crossed the border, and they have been in a continuous fight. And now I am there to tell them how to do it better. I'm going to explain to you that have been in a continuous fight in your country for 30 years how to do your job better. How am I going to get that person to listen to me? The first thing that you have to do is build a level of trust and relationship. So it takes time to listen to them, understands what's important, build that cultural awareness and having that respect for them and what they're trying to do. And once you have that trust and relationship, then you can say, all I'm here to do is to help you. And I think that really relates to city council. I know that when I walk in there on day one, I'm not showing up with my agenda, putting it down on the dais and say, this is what we're going to do, everybody get in line and follow me. That's not leadership. My first day in city council when I'm there is I'm going to get there and I'm going to listen and I'm going to learn how to trust and respect the other council members and how we can come together to solve the same problems in their district that we're facing in mine.
Oh, wow. Well, considering that you're still in the military, you made it to Major, you're still alive, you did pretty good in your deployments. I think
I had some great Marines to help me along the way.
Yeah. I want to dig into this statement a little bit and articulate, I think you might have already I'm just going to read my comments here, what this means to your community, maybe peel it back the layers for more civilians to understand that have never traveled outside the country and experienced any of this. Can you describe the environment? Some of them may not have traveled outside the country, what's the terrain like? Do these people want to work with you? Do you have to, you can't just tell someone that doesn't want to work with you, do this, like you said.
Yeah.
I mean, what are some of the creative ideas that you had to have to get an Afghan officer that were in their country telling them what to do? How did you do that? Is it patience? What kind of common ground did you have to find?
It takes a lot of patience, that's for sure, but it takes a lot of listening. It takes a lot of understanding to be able to do that. I tell you, my experience getting into Iraq and being there in Iraq was, we first show up and we came off of the 13th MEU, so that meant that we got there by ship. We sailed there, we're in Kuwait, we're being flown into the combat zone, and so we had this great experience of a C-130 combat landing. I don't know if you've ever had that, but...
What year was that?
This was 2007.
Okay, keep going.
So in 2007, a C-130 combat landing is basically where you drop from the sky because you're trying not to get shot down. And so for those that don't like flying, this is not a good experience.
I'm sorry, I just want to go into military terms because I was the 82nd Airborne.
Yep.
I jumped out of C-130 once.
Yep.
Okay, keep going.
So you're just dropping and your stomach is, coming up into your throat, and then you're landing in there. And never deployed before. I'm a second lieutenant at this point in time. You're getting on the deck. It's hot. You're disoriented, and you're trying to figure it out. The first night that we went into...
You said deck, you mean the ground outside?
Ground, yes.
I'm
the ground.
I didn't speak Marine Corps language.
Yes.
Okay, keep going.
So we get on the ground. You get yourself oriented. We spent about a week and a half learning the terrain and living inside the base, and then we push out. We push out in the very first night that we were there. Our reconnaissance team that went, about 6 hours prior to us was ambushed, in a terrible situation. They fought themselves out of that situation. They got, control of the important terrain and bridge. And then we come in there, and for the first 30, 40 days, it was very kinetic. We were in a fight in a territory that we have not controlled, and this is, part of George Bush's surge at that time. And so we get in there, and now we're starting to work with the community. We've just spent 45 days fighting our way into this region to establish a stronghold and a foothold, and we do. So then for the next 3.5 months, what we're doing then is building a relationship with the community and explaining to them that we're not there to fight, we're there to help them. Some of the things that I did was pay them to, tell us where information was. Some of the things that we did was give them some money for some of the damage that we had caused by, our tanks driving through their front yard.
Okay.
We built friends, we built relationships, and we had to sit there and it took us several months for us to finally get their trust that we were there to help them. There were several different techniques that we had to use, but by the time we were done, we literally were giving school supplies to children that we had brought from the U.S. Had that mailed in and flown
Awesome.
to us so we could give to them and change the entire community.
One of my first missions, I don't tell war stories here. One of my first missions that I deployed my first time when I was 21 was to deliver those school supplies, something very similar.
Yeah.
And they never prepared you for how many kids you saw.
Yeah.
Everywhere. All the training exercises we did,
Yeah.
very similar my side. But when you get there, you're at a school, someone's backyard, you're like, this is not what I was ready for everything, but then I saw kids everywhere. That was the thing that got to me.
I saw that too. My toughest Marines, they melted when they saw these kids.
Yeah.
And that just goes to the character of the Marines and soldiers that were out there. They were there for the right reasons.
Awesome. So yeah, I'd like to pick out, like you said, communication is key, listening to constituents, building relationships. And thanks again for doing this. I think a lot of people will appreciate you spending the time doing this.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Mark, for having me.
Okay, so I got more questions. Can you talk about how your military service will maintain and or improve public safety in San Diego?
It's one of my top issues that I want to address as a city council member is public safety. It's one of the basic tenets of a city is to provide public safety to its community, whether that is fire or police, lifeguards, etc. There's a lot of different public safety entities that we need to support here in San Diego. One of the things we have to do is support the retention and hiring and recruiting of our police officers. We're in a deficit right now. The City Council over the last 4 to 6 years has been working hard for that, and they've made a lot of good strides. But sometimes it makes more sense to work with the unions, the police, and the community to find a solution to these problems rather than pointing fingers at them. And from my Marine Corps perspective, we spend almost $200,000 per Marine to get a Marine from the moment that they put their feet on the yellow footprints to when they first join their unit. So we spend about $200,000 doing that. In the city of San Diego, that number is about $125,000, somewhere around there. I know my number's off, but it's in that ballpark. It's a large dollar amount that we invest. And when somebody comes in and goes through all of that training to become a police officer, and then they go and they leave because they're recruited by another police station somewhere else in California that is going to be able to allow them to own a house, to be able to raise their family, because the cost of living here in San Diego is too high, because the wages are not as competitive. There's a lot of different issues that we have to make sure that we address to continue to recruit and retain police officers here in San Diego. And my military experience and understanding of those issues is going to help us on the City Council.
Awesome. I just want to throw up the website if you want to know more about Patrick Batten while you're finished talking. Okay, so I know we kind of already covered this earlier, and I already know the answer for this, but I'm asking for the audience. As a career military officer, you've managed federal budgets, federal government budgets. Can you tell us a little bit about fiscal responsibility, maybe your history in managing budgets? I know you talked about the $5 million
Yeah.
And cost-saving measures, because you need to talk about public safety. Any ideas how to save the taxpayers' money? Any plans for audits or cost-saving ideas?
The city of San Diego right now is we've had some good economic times, but we're still facing a financial crisis that's looming. How do we continue to pave our roads? How do we recruit and retain police officers and fire safety and firemen and lifeguards, etc.? How do we provide the basics when we are in a large deficit? Some of that is just making tough decisions, being able to stand up and do what is right, looking through the budget and saying, it takes a little bit more than just going back to a department head and saying, I need you to cut a couple dollars from your budget. How are you going to solve the problem? It requires us to put together a real plan that has action. And it may not be the most popular, because if you're going to be able to cut $83 million to $100+ million, because remember, that $83 million doesn't include any pay raises. When you add in a pay raise, and at this city council, there will be a pay raise for our employees. I can guarantee you that. So now you're looking at a $100 million deficit. There's going to be some really tough decisions that have to be made. I
can talk about a city in OC. I'm not going to mention what city. They voted themselves, their police officers, a 20% pay raise without the budget. So once that got written into law, what happened was the city had to start selling off assets to pay for operating costs.
Yeah.
And that was big problems, and they're having even way bigger problems now.
Yeah.
So I hope you guys avoid that in the future.
Yeah, one of the areas though that is actually a good point is we do have excess land, and we do have some other areas that we have been getting rid of those properties
Okay.
to be able to do a couple things. One, you're going to make a little bit of money on the sale of it, but you're also going to be able to save on having to preserve those pieces of property, etc. So it reduces operating costs as well.
Okay. Awesome. Excuse me. I thought we'd have more questions from the audience. Sometimes you never can predict these. Sometimes you never get through anything. It's 2 hours of audience questions, but we might actually get through all of our questions today.
Good.
So, all right, so changing subjects, going on more military stuff. Can you describe some emotions you had when you became a military officer, if you remember when you pinned on that rank?
I do. You know,
Who pinned it on you? Who was there at your ceremony?
so it was my wife, Kelly, and my one of my best friends, Major Marco Rodriguez, who was still in the Marine Corps active duty at that time. He's since retired, but he was there to pin me on. And Marco and I met in college as well as my wife and I. And all of us together served as college Republicans and were, young political activists back in the day. And so it was a great experience to be able to have that with them and share that moment. So I remember it incredibly well. I also remember my first salute, and when, as a Marine officer, giving that first salute is very important and very special. And I gave it to Bill Bellamy, who he and I were rack mates, and but he was a prior enlisted that was going through, had not finished college, but he had finished OCS. So we shared at OCS for 12 weeks, a rack, and so it was very special to be able to give that salute to him. Now fast forward then 2 years later, he comes back to the same battery or the same battalion that I'm part of, and we're still second lieutenants, and he comes up and he gives me a salute, and I salute him back. And, second lieutenants don't salute each other. And my buddy's like, hey, you don't have to salute him. And he's like, no. He was just paying that back.
I was just saying mine was a Brigade Sergeant Major Randy Har.
Nice.
Who saluted me. And I was a staff sergeant in the beginning of the day, and then I was a lieutenant in the end.
Yep.
So awesome. It was Sergeant Major Hart, Colonel Hart was our brigade commander who did the ceremony. So it was always confusing of Colonel Hart and Sergeant Major Har. One letter is changed, their names were different. So go back to the like any big city, I can imagine traffic is an issue for San Diego. Can you talk a little bit about this? Does the city have transportation commission? If not, would you want to form one?
So what we have in San Diego, really for our transportation issues, is SANDAG, is our biggest organization, and the city of San Diego plays a huge role in SANDAG. The issues that we face here in San Diego have been similar issues that you face in the Inland Empire and Orange County as the population through the 80s and the 90s grew, and then into the 2000s. The amount of money that we spent on transportation issues and roads did not really meet with the growth that we had in California. And so we've had increased traffic problems. We've had a lot of issues that we're facing, and so we passed Transnet tax here in San Diego in 2004, which was a sales tax increase that we imposed upon ourselves to help solve these problems. And recently we've had a big fight over that here in San Diego County over what will be prioritized. Will we continue to prioritize roads, or will we prioritize transit issues? The real reality is that we have to make sure that we keep the promise that we made to our taxpayers that approve this sales tax increase, and we have to continue to provide those road expansions on the 67, on the 52, on the 78. There are different areas that we have to that will allow us to unclog those major arteries here in San Diego. Doesn't mean that we are then going to neglect transit, but we prioritized transit in the beginning in 2004, and now it's time to make sure that we focus and keep our promises.
I might have missed it. Did you say you guys do have a transportation commission?
We do.
Okay, cool. Yeah, most cities do. We just restarted ours in Irvine.
Okay.
I think about a year and a half ago. Okay, move on. Next question. This is another issue. How do you intend to maintain open and honest communication with the public? Are you going to do community walks, monthly coffee meet and greet, or maybe more of these?
I think that this would be a great way to continue to do it. Even after the election is over, as a sitting city councilman, I would love to have the opportunity to do this and connect with more people. It's efficient, it's effective, and so I appreciate the opportunity to do this.
You know what we could do is we could just set you up with a phone just for this, and you can sit up in your office when you're in your council office, and then once a week turn it on and have it scheduled. And just when you're doing your work, if people want to watch you do your work and say, "Hey, council member, I have a question." Idea.
It's not a bad idea. I think it'd be great. You know, I'm committed that once elected, my focus will be on the district to make sure that we can provide solutions for the community. Community first is what this campaign is about. And so, continuing to have communications, continuing to have coffees, continuing to have different events where the public can just come and in a way, complain to me. Maybe once, maybe twice, that they can thank me for something. But really, it's an opportunity for me to listen, which has been, as we talked about before in military experience, the most important aspect as a leader is just to listen.
Oh, I agree. What's your population roundabout in San Diego as a whole?
What, in the city of San Diego? I wish I knew. I think in the county, the entire county is like 3.5 million, but the city it's somewhere around 1.2.
I was just asking, since how many public commenters do you have? Because I'm sure you've been to a city council meeting. So I just want to correlate the population to how many people actually complain, like you said. Because you have those hardcore people that every city council meeting, they're going to say something.
Yeah, because they have their issues that are important to them and that are meaningful to them, and sometimes they're not the priority of the city council. And I respect that.
Well, someone that's new that might mean, we reached out to our city council, say, we want a crosswalk because it's dangerous. And they fixed it within 4 weeks. So thank you, Christina Shea, if you're watching, our mayor and city council, all them. So I'm just my question was just kind of in my mind, because I've been to tons of city council meetings. Because we have a population of about 277,000.
Okay.
And even on the most extreme cases, the most controversial, you might have 20, 30 speakers.
Yeah.
So, but you're not listening to the other 276,000, do the math on that. So most people will be pretty happy, I think.
No, you're right. I think on a incredibly controversial issue, we sometimes will get 100 to 200 speakers that will show up.
Wow.
But I mean, those issues come around, every couple of years.
Okay.
The average issue that shows up, there are probably between 20 speakers to 30 speakers.
So I guess in kind of spitball, it's about the same as Irvine.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving along. How well, because my question is getting along with others. How well do you get along with other elected school board, county board of supervisors, local state assembly?
I think I've got a great relationship with a lot of them. And it goes to show with the endorsements that I've had. The support that I've had in this race has been incredible.
Can I interrupt you?
Please.
Help you answer the question. If you can get along with Afghanistan military officers, Iraqi officers, and all this stuff, they don't even speak your language, and get them to work with you, I think you'd be okay.
Yeah. I think we'd be fine. But it just goes to being more willing to listen than it is to talk.
Okay. Sorry.
No.
As I interrupt you, tell me to listen, don't talk.
That was not directed at you.
Oh, I'm sorry. But no, I just want to point that out, that I've been in those situations where I had to learn Indonesian in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
It is not easy what you did.
No.
Multiple deployments.
Well, I'll tell you my Afghan language experience, very briefly, is that we spent 6 months on our workup to learn how to speak Dari for the officers. We learned Dari, and then the Marines learned Pashto, because we were told all of the officers that you're going to work with are going to learn and speak Dari. We got there, nobody spoke Dari. So 6 months of learning how to speak, and none of us could communicate. So yes, it was a challenge, but we overcame it.
So we have a question from Kristen. She says, I love your community-first approach to communicating with your citizens, especially your open events that citizens can convey their issues with you. So not really a
Kristen,
question.
I appreciate that. And I'm running for this race because of that. What's important to me is not the politics, it's not the parties, it's not the ideology. It's supporting our communities and making sure that our communities come first. The community is where we raise our family. It's where we live. It's where we reside. And I want to do my best to make sure that the city of San Diego is not an obstacle for you to be able to do that. And the best way for me to be able to do my job is then to have these events, to be in the community, to continue to reach out. My time living in Rancho Bernardo has been about raising my family and being involved in this community whenever and wherever I could.
Okay, I want to skip ahead a question. That was perfectly what you said. After you're elected, the hard part starts.
Yes.
In my opinion. What can we do as constituents to help you once elected? Before you start, we like you said, we're a team as a community to help you as our elected representative. What can we do?
The easy answer is to say, tell me what you think, tell me what your problem is. I think it's a little bit more complicated than that. While as a city council member, I have to be willing to listen, I think as a constituent, sometimes you have to be willing to understand. And so it's a little bit of a two-way road there. And I'm not saying understand that I'm right or anything like that, but try to understand what we're trying to do, because sometimes we're not at the city going to do things the right way. But everybody there, regardless of party, regardless of politics, has gotten elected because they want to have a positive change. Nobody has gone to the city council that I have ever seen and aware of because they wanted to destroy things and make their community worse, or, do something bad to another community.
You've never been there. Sorry. We have a specific little. I'll tell you off camera.
Okay. But so sometimes it's just an understanding that we're not perfect, and our listening is not perfect, and so it becomes a two-way communication. So the best thing that I can do as a elected official is to continue that dialogue. I always say it's the same as when you get married, and I've been married for 23 years. What keeps a great marriage is that you have to continue to try to win your wife or your husband over. You want to keep them involved. You want to continue to keep the relationship together. So what you did in your courtship to get married is probably what you should continue to do once you are married. It's the same thing once you're elected. As a city council member, all those great things that you said you were going to do, all the times that you reached out there to the community, you need to continue to do that so you can continue to understand and build that relationship for the community.
I'm going to steal that comment from my campaign. That's a really good way to put it. That was really well explained. Okay, so I got some more questions as we wrap up here in a few. Because I saw your wife looking at her watch, and I hope I don't keep it.
Text.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's it's an Apple. Yeah, it's an Apple Watch. So
Okay, cool.
she probably just got a text from the kids saying what's for dinner. So.
And you've mentioned before, so best practice is to maintain quality city staff. I always say this is something that I've done right. It's a non-issue, but if you just screw it up, high staff turnover rate will hurt the city. Can you talk about how you will maintain and improve, recruit quality city staff, employees? I think you have many years of experience taking care of troops, so I suspect you might have a lot to say on this.
I do. We always talk about how do we recruit good staff, and there's a double-edged sword here. How do you get rid of bad staff? Not everybody is made and cut out for that job, and it's kind of a two-way street. Is that what you have to be able to do is have good management and leadership, and the Marine Corps and the Army does a great job because we evaluate our Marines and soldiers on a daily basis, but we also then do that on a sit-down formal quarterly basis, and then at the lower ranks we do it semi-annually with a written report, and at the higher ranks we do it annually with what we call fitness reports. Is what is your fitness, not just physical fitness, but how are you doing your job? In a department, you have to make sure that you're doing the same thing in evaluating your employees and staff members. And I think it's something that the city of San Diego has failed in the past of doing. We have to make sure that if you are a good employee and you are doing what you're supposed to, like the vast majority, that needs to be rewarded. Now, if you're an employee that is not doing their job, it falls upon your leadership and your managers to make sure that they're helping you and coaching you. And that's the big difference in the Marine Corps and the Army, as you know, is that not everybody is cut out for it, but we don't fire anybody. Now, if you're a really bad apple, we will get rid of you and you'll be separated. But what we do is that when you've got your 4 years there, we do our absolute best to make you the best Marine or soldier that we possibly can. And it's then the leadership's responsibility to take that time to work with them. Let them know what their strengths are. Let them know what their weaknesses are. And in the city of San Diego, in a bureaucracy like this, you need somebody that understands that. Business background is important, but this isn't a business. This is a giant bureaucracy, and if you go in there thinking you're going to fire somebody because they're ineffective, good luck dealing with the unions.
Well, you can get rid of the city manager if you want, right? That's about it.
Well, we did, because basically now we don't have a city manager system. We went to the voters. So we have a strong mayor system. So we have a chief operating officer, et cetera, but we don't have a city manager.
Well, it's maybe a lot different. You got over 1 million population. We have 277,000 in our city.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about how you plan to engage with maybe local school districts, lower and higher forms of government?
I will. It's important for the city of San Diego. Now a lot of the school districts don't feed into and fall underneath the jurisdiction of the city of San Diego, of course. But because most of them actually fall under the state of California, they get most of their funding there, they get most of their directives from the state of California. But from the city of San Diego, we need to continue to engage with those leaders that are at the school board, making sure that we're helping and providing them with assistance where we can.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's security, because you got the local San Diego Police Department engage with their school resource officer and things like that. Like we have I know there's monthly meetings between the city and the school district.
And our district, in District 5, we have both the Poway Unified School District as well as the San Diego Unified School District. So we have 2 school districts that fall under us, or fall within our communities.
Well, that's for your district.
Yes.
San Diego as a whole, I imagine they have multiple school districts.
They do. They do. And so what it requires then is to work across the board, making sure that our police are engaged and are interactive with those school districts, and for the most part we do. We've got 4 children that are going to school in the district, and we've had threats at these schools.
Oh, well.
And it's terribly scary. It's terrifying because we live in a fairly decent community. I would consider that our community is affluent. So when you get this threat for a student and the school goes on lockdown, as a parent, your heart sinks and you're concerned. Yeah. But you have to make sure that you're trusting them that the police have done their job and that they're providing that. So as a city council member, my job is to make sure that we do that. I think that my background as a Marine provides me with some of that understanding for how to provide security.
Oh yeah, definitely. That was actually my background, is layered security. Yeah. We talked about that. Issues we have is like emergency communication response time. I was lobbying to get radios for the staff that we need them. And I'll go on a little bit of a rant here. The mayor asked me to review Safe Community Task Force recently for Irvine, and there was a shooting in 1992, and they analyzed a lot of research and some recommendations. And one of the recommendations were handheld radios in the classrooms, law enforcement type radios. And that's the thing I'm still fighting for in 2019, 2018, my school board and council races. I'm like, okay, in 1992, the city experts, chief of police, superintendent, they all came together, and that was one of their recommendations. We're still not doing it, so.
Interesting.
If you'd like to, I can get that study for you. It's a public document. I'll send it to you.
I appreciate that. I'd like to see that and take a look at that.
Yeah, and we're standing up in response to all the violence. We're actually standing up a new Safe Community Task Force that's going to start in January.
Good.
And we're kind of working together, a little bit of working group of who is going to be on it. And it's very similar to the 1992 Task Force, because one thing that changes is the date and technology. So maybe include some of the social media stuff they didn't have in 1992, those considerations. Okay, so back to you. I don't want to make it about me. So when elected, what type of committees are there for you to appoint people to?
There's several different committees, but not a lot. Most
we've got 10 committees and commissions.
I'll say a lot of them are mayoral appointments.
Every council district appoints people.
I can't hear you.
Every council district usually has appointees to some of the boards and commissions, but you only get like maybe, since there's 9 council districts, maybe like 1 or 2 depending on the commission, and some of them are district specific. So then District 5 wouldn't have any, but some of them are.
Yeah, we've got planning, finance commissions, traffic commissions, then like investment advisory, stuff like that.
Well, yeah, we have everything like bike commission, parking commission.
Okay, so just like every other city.
Yeah. ADA, a lot of different ones.
Awesome. Okay, I'm not sure if we've beat this one up. Top 3 issues? Top 1 issue?
The top 3 issues that we're facing in District 5 in San Diego, number 1 is homelessness.
Yeah, you kind of said that.
There's no place that you can go in San Diego that you don't see it, that it's not impacting our communities. So that's clearly the number 1 issue. The number 2 issue is public safety. We have to make sure that we're continuing to retain and recruit public safety officers is an incredibly important issue. And the number 3 is to continue to provide infrastructure improvements. And the only way we're going to do that is through sound fiscal policy. We have to make sure that as we have a pending economic downturn potentially coming, as we face a structural budget deficit, we have to make sure that we're continuing to take tough decisions and continue to provide infrastructure.
All right, cool. I'm going to lump these next 2 questions in there because we're kind of covering. How do you plan addressing those issues? You have some ideas. Understanding, you have a lot of, complex experience for, working in the federal government. Can we talk about that experience and how it will help you on the council? For example, I worked in security and I was well aware of programs offered that save school districts money, but they were unaware. So they're hiring consultants to do these security assessments when the county, state, and federal government will do it for free. Yeah. Specifically, like the County Threat and Fusion Center has specifically like a critical infrastructure unit that comes and does it for free. Meanwhile, the school district's paying $40,000, like a crazy amount of money to do these assessments, like the stuff that I used to do my. So I'm just wondering if you talk about some of how you can bring those programs, cost-saving measures.
Specifically in terms of the security, we don't have anything that I am aware of. My background was a little bit different than yours. But I do think that there are areas that we can look at. In San Diego, we have an entirely, large community. And like I said, some of the issues that we're facing here are the issues of homelessness. So to touch base on that, how do we make sure that we connect? And when we've got the second largest homeless population of veterans, how do we connect them to the federal programs and dollars that are here? Mm-hmm. And it's important that we look at that and explore different avenues.
Awesome. Okay, here's not the vague. It's supposed to be a vague question. What's your overarching command philosophy for being in the city council or as a leader in general?
To me, the overarching theme for leadership is to be a servant leader. That is the way we are taught in the Marine Corps. Now, whether it is chow, food, lunch, dinner, right? We are always the last to be served. So servant leadership is how you do that. It's the same thing at City Council. You're making sure that your interests are, again, like I mentioned, community first, that your interests are serving the community before yours, before those that making sure that your policies are focused there. And I think that that's the same thing. As a Marine and as a leader, any decision that I made was, overarching. Our number one goal is always mission accomplishment. The second is troop welfare. So to me, are we accomplishing the mission as a city council to provide the services that we need to our city? And the second then, are we being responsive to the taxpayers that elected us?
Oh, sounds like you're using your power for good. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
And servant leadership was something that we talked about. I was in command as well. Something that was drilled into me. So usually at that question, I've asked many people, I have to they're like, command philosophy. So I was like, okay, I don't have to explain it to him. He'll know.
Yes. As you know, as when you do take command, you give out your command philosophy, and it's one of the most important things that you do. And to me, as a city council member, it will be one of the most important things that I do. It's not quite going to be a command philosophy, but people will understand what I stand for.
Okay, so awesome. Moving along to some things, some more anecdotal stuff. What's up with the gas tax and the sky-high gas prices? One of our comments is always, why does Texas have $2 a gallon gas and we're like $5? But also at the same time, the city may have nothing to do with that. So I don't know if the city of San Diego has a gas tax. I know that's more of a state issue.
Yeah, the issue is it is a state and a federal issue, and it's mind-boggling to me how we are going to spend money at the state of California for Gavin Newsom to hold a commission to explore why we have such high gas prices. We all know why we have high gas prices. Yeah. We just increased our taxes. It is ridiculous that we are now going to study that. We have our summer and our winter fuels. That is a huge cost to be able to change that over. When Texas doesn't have that, of course it's not going to cost us much. Okay. It's a waste of money.
Awesome. Okay, so you have a comment from the audience real quick as we're wrapping up. Kristen says, thank you, Patrick Batten, for your service and running for city council. I would definitely be supporting you as a candidate. I wish I was able to vote for you. Thank you for your heart of service and community first approach of leadership. Awesome.
Thank you, Kristen. I appreciate that.
Sounds like she's been hanging out watching the whole hour with us.
I appreciate it. I'm losing focus sitting here talking about myself. So thank you.
I'm going to throw that on his website real quick if you want to look at that one. Okay, so move along real quick. So you want to talk about the city jobs and the city's economy?
Yeah, right now the city economy has been strong. We have been able to continue to improve jobs, and one of the things that I was able to work on, is trying to connect jobs with where people live. One project that we've got that's going in the city of San Diego that's kind of exciting is Horton Plaza. Most that don't live in San Diego have come and traveled to San Diego just to see Horton Plaza and this, monstrosity of a shopping center with its, multiple levels that it's hard to find and hard to figure out how you're going to get to. But we just passed in the city of San Diego a new project, and it's going to be called the Campus at Horton. And, shopping malls are dying all over the nation, and this is an opportunity that they're going to take these large structures, the old Nordstrom building, and they're going to turn that into a office complex and look to bring in a high-tech company. Mm-hmm. So the importance of that is, how do we keep jobs? We've got great universities in San Diego. We've got the University of San Diego, UC San Diego, my alma mater, San Diego State, and we're producing great entrepreneurs, and we're producing engineers, and we're producing all of these tech jobs that are then leaving San Diego. This is an exciting opportunity, and we're seeing that Apple and other companies want to come down to San Diego and be part of this community.
You said Apple?
Apple is one
awesome.
that has over the past year and a half shown interest of trying to open up a location here. And there's other tech places, and this is a chance to keep jobs and local talent in San Diego rather than going now to some of the other places in San Antonio and San Francisco, even Detroit.
If you get Apple, you get reelected forever, I think. That one.
Yeah, we did put in a package here in the city of San Diego for Amazon. We were not successful, but sounds like we may have been lucky on that one.
Okay. Awesome. So I got some other stuff on environmental question. So I'm not sure if you would talk about that, but I was going to ask you, what's your stance on protecting our environment and maximizing natural resources? I know we all want clean air and water, so.
Absolutely. As a San Diegan, as a surfer, as somebody that's raising my kids here, those issues are important to me. They're important to all of us. We've got a situation coming up in the city of San Diego, and I'm a little bit concerned about it, and it's our CCAs. And the reason why I'm concerned about it is because we're trying to take on that burden and responsibility, and I really appreciate those leaders that are out there trying to provide new renewable energy sources. But it's going to be a big hassle, and it's going to be a big risk that the city of San Diego is going to accept that role as basically providing energy and is now into the energy producing business. And now we have to make sure that we're going to be responsive to our taxpayers, make sure that we don't burden them while continuing to provide renewable energy. So it's a big issue. As a city council member, I'm going to be able to be focused on that and help us to provide a solution there.
Awesome. I know I'm not in your county, but I'm on the Waste Management Commission. So could I interest you in a landfill tour and explain to you how we are working to keep the air and water cleaner and how to reduce methane gases versus CO2. Methane is like 80 times worse than CO2 and SB 1383 and all these really boring regulations, but that result in cleaner water. So I just want to invite you on those. And I know I'm not in your county. You probably have already been to your local stuff, but that is probably worth an entire 2 hours on itself, just talking about those and how we capture methane gases at the landfills and special facilities through green waste. And we actually put that back into the natural gas system.
Yeah, we do too, I think.
What's that? You guys have that?
I think we do too, and I think
that?
we work because it's our landfill's next to our military base, and I think there's a partnership with the military base with methane gas.
So it sounds like you guys are already working towards clean air and water.
Yeah, we are, and we've done a really good job doing that, but there's still a lot more work that we have to do.
Okay, so we're almost to the end of the questions, but we got one from the audience. I know you already answered it, but David Kellogg just joined us. I'm not sure if he works at the VA or not, but he's a veteran himself. He says, being a veteran, how are you going to help veterans transition into civilian life?
David, I appreciate that question because earlier, and not everybody's been able to listen to all of this, so it's good for us to address some of these questions. But this issue is near and dear to my heart because the most challenging thing that I faced was my personal transition back into civilian life and trying to re-assimilate. One of the areas that I think that in the city of San Diego and working and partnering with the local chamber of commerce and different business communities and leaders, we all, when we get out of the Marine Corps, go through TAPS and TAMS. And my experience through that was go to a website, click in your job, see what you're good at. Well, I was an artilleryman. There's not a whole lot of jobs out there for artillerymen.
Yeah, my first job was being 60mm mortar guy.
Yeah,
that was my first job.
Exactly. So, my buddy, also an artilleryman, said to me, "Goes, I found the perfect job for us: avalanche control in Colorado."
They said the same thing to me.
Yeah, but we don't have avalanches in San Diego, so that doesn't do me any good. But being serious, though, we can partner actually with, I think, TAPS and TAMS, and we can partner with the Marine Corps and with the Navy here in San Diego, and we can help provide those transitions. Because as a leader, I knew who my Marines were that were likely going to get out 6 months to a year in advance. And we can connect those resources that we have as civilians to the military that's such a big part of our community to help. As I mentioned, too, we've got great organizations in San Diego that are volunteer. We've got the Veterans Beer Club, which is great. It's just like a once-a-month beer mixer. You go to a local brewery, have a beer, provide jobs and opportunities, and connect with employees and transition.
I'm just laughing because the cliche, veteran beer makes sense.
Yeah, but
trying to shake off that image. No.
Yeah, but at the same time, how are you going to get a Marine to show up if you're not going to give him a beer?
Awesome. So I think I got most of my questions done. I have some other, generalized questions. You've traveled the world. Where have you been? What have you learned by traveling?
I've had an incredible experience traveling as a Marine all over the place. I like to say that I have dropped bombs in more than 10 different countries and 4 different continents. And it's been an incredible experience. Most of those in training exercises, a few in combat. But the experience and being in Australia, being in Thailand, being in Korea, being in Japan, the United Kingdom, Ireland and Scotland and the UK, you learn a lot. You get to see a lot of different things. It gives you a great perspective on life. But what I've learned is that the U.S. is still truly the greatest country that there is. As much as I enjoyed my time overseas, it gave me a better love for our country here and what we do and why our way of life is so important and why we have to protect it.
So, follow up to that. So, what's your favorite American holiday or holiday? You say it.
Favorite holiday is clearly the 4th of July. The 4th of July just means so much because it signifies why we're different as a country, what we stand for, but it's also about family and it's about community.
Awesome. Okay, last few comments here. I'm not sure how much time you got. We're coming up on 2 hours. Diane says, thank you for your service.
Thank you, Diane.
She's a friend of ours that goes walks with us in the mayor's on Saturday mornings. So David, he just more of a comment.
Yeah.
How to put a resume together, how to dress. Actually, the Army helped me with my resume, so helped me get a federal job and stuff way back in the day. When I had a break in service, I had to go back in the Army.
Yeah, our TAPS and TAMPs, we did a resume class and put it together, and it was kind of basic, and we did have to come in on one day where we had to put on a suit and to make sure that we were able to do that. But I think some of it was a little bit superficial. But really, I think where the civilian population can help with that is exactly what David's talking about. Is has a civilian put together a resume. I still find it difficult to translate what I did into civilian speak. I know it does relate. I know it transfers over, but sometimes it depends on what community that you're looking to go into, what field that you want to work in, and then actually studying the language that they use, and then being able to take some of that language and translate it directly to what your experience is important. And I think that when we connect some of our veterans that are getting ready to leave the military service with those fields and those industries, it's very helpful for them.
Do you have any idea how many, kind of a vague question, how many veterans are in your district?
Our district, I wish that I knew the actual numbers, but it is a large amount. We are just a little bit north of Miramar. So we have a large naval population because Miramar back in the day used to be Miramar Naval Air Station. So you would have a lot of captains and admirals that retired up in our district. We still have a lot of Marines that have moved in there, so it is a very large veteran population.
Awesome.
I would say that well over half of the district has a personal connection to the military.
You're probably
Whether it's
elected
not
then.
being serving, but
Okay.
being connected and family members and others.
Oh, you'll probably get elected then. Just saying.
I hope so.
Have you thought? Just last few questions here. Have you considered any military voter registration drives in your district?
No, actually, we haven't, but that's not a bad idea. That's actually a great idea, and to be able to do that, we've got a veterans event coming up to
Awesome.
make sure that we're connecting veterans to the campaign, and having my Marines that I served with supporting the campaign is just incredible.
I found it awesome that all my former comrades actually totally supported when I ran.
Yeah.
Actually, so there was somewhere watching. There was one, I'm not sure if he's still, Paul Skinner, he was watching.
Yeah.
I deployed with him. So as you're talking, I'm thinking of the stories. We were deployed together.
You asked earlier, and this actually, caught my memory and refreshed it, was you asked me what was the best experience so far on the campaign trail.
Yeah.
I had a fundraiser out there and invited, some of my Marines and said, look, don't worry, $10, $20, $50, whatever you can do. And if it's zero, just show up. Love to have you there. And it was great because I ended up having one of my sergeants show up. And Jason showed up out there, and we were able to talk and to connect. And I had not seen him in 8 or 9 years, and we had deployed to Iraq together. And then I had another a friend of mine that he and I had continued to serve together.
Okay.
He's a major now as well as I, but we were both lieutenants back in the day.
Oh.
And so we were all from the same battery, the same deployments, and we had the chance just to reconnect, talk about friends, and be able to do that and know that they're supporting what I'm doing. That was probably the best part of this campaign so far.
Yeah, I had a friend that's running for Congress. He had similar things. People that he lost touch with that were his soldiers. He was a retired full-bird colonel, and they're full maxing out donations, working on the campaign.
Yep.
And I even got a video. Well, we can do it another time. I got a video of him talking about taxes even.
Yeah.
Because he asked, the Telemundo reporter came to his house, and
Okay.
they had me do the video for it. So.
And so it's just been a great experience being able to reconnect with that.
Okay. Yeah. So another comment from David Kellogg. Thank you both for your service and continuing service. So you're welcome.
David.
Actually, thank you for my service. I had 20 years of fun. I miss it. So I thank you for paying, for the taxpayers for paying for my career.
Yeah.
So.
I still have the pleasure and privilege to serve in the Marine Corps and the reserves now, and I'll continue to do it as long as I can. And it's just an honor. It's still just to be able to be there. And the reason why I do it is the Marines.
Yep, I agree. I've been talking to recruiters as well for the reserve and thinking about going back in. And I kind of miss actually knowing what's going on. You're actually able to bring that expertise to the 18, 19, 20-year-old kids, and they're stressed out about something. It's like, no, just do that. Do this. Yeah. And you're like, it's fixed. And
it's being a Marine and being an officer, and same in the Army, is not just about, explaining to somebody, the technicalities of artillery or the technicalities of working with and controlling aircraft and fires and stuff. It's really about helping them with life experiences. Mm-hmm. And that's what I still get the greatest kick out of is to be able to provide them with some of my background experience and those wonderful moments when they actually listen to what you say and then it works out. And
I like this when I had these watch what I can do moments. And I'll relate it to what happened recently. Yeah. I was in, my wife and I were in the principal's office with our son for something, and she talks about the crosswalk. And I was like, I got this. I'll get this fixed really quick. And she's like, no, you're not. She's been trying forever. And I was like, I'll call the mayor right now. 4 weeks later, they're building it. Like I was able to get it done. Like, and there was some luck there.
Yeah.
I just happened to call them on Bright Moon. I said I walked it through City Council. I knocked on doors until they said yes. And it's like in the military. You're like, okay, Colonel, I got it. No, sir, got it, sir. And they're like,
Yep.
really? You're like, yep. And you're like, wow, how'd that happen? You're like,
Yep.
And it's you're able to pull that team together and help them. And I do miss those moments, those hard missions. And then
Yep.
you're able to have your veterans beer after. And
Yep. And now it's exactly right. And right now with, the unit that I've been involved with for a long time in the reserves is 3rd Anglico. And we've got Marines that are coming back from their deployment over in Afghanistan. They've been supporting the Georgian Army out there, and they're a few weeks from coming home. So I'm anticipating that beer with them.
Awesome. Well, I think I'm out of questions. So unless you got anything else, I'm pretty much good. I know we're almost at 2 hours.
Yeah, it's been a great experience. Thank you for this opportunity,
No problem.
and everybody out there listening, I appreciate it. Hopefully you had a chance to go to the website, and Mark, I really appreciate this.
Okay, hold on. Let me put your logo up as we get out of here. So I'll put the exit music on. And we're good? Is there anything else?
Nope, just
So-
thank you.
PatrickBatten.com to the website up there. So go to the website, help out Patrick. Oh man, what? Okay, there you go. Now it's not working. Okay, there you go. There's his website. So you can learn more about Patrick at this website. I know we got some people watching. And I guess we're pretty much, we'll cue the music. Usually I got that. Hold on. There we go. We got that. All right. All right, thanks everybody. Catch us again next time.
Thank you. Well, that wasn't too painful.
I hope I didn't talk
That was
too
fun.
much.
No, it was a good time.
I talked more than I usually do.
Nah,
So
I don't know if it was more, but it wasn't. I didn't think it impeded our progress. I thought it was a good back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
usually I got more. I'm glad we have lots of questions. I kind of copied and pasted, if you didn't notice.
Yeah.
Something about prosecutor.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like,
That was someone else's. And then Kelly Earnby was our last one we interviewed.
No, I thought it went well. You know?
Our retention rate was good. So once we got them, they would watch. Like I was looking, the number didn't do this.
Yeah.
It initially went high, then it kind of, it's going to give us the analytics.
Okay.
But you never know who shares it. You know, if
Yeah.
I get a heavyweight in there, they'll share it. Just boom.
Well, I mean, it was a good first experience, and hopefully we can do this again, and whenever you've got opportunity.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay. Still.
the funny thing. So Isaac Wang, that's my political opponent, which is great. He's actually a good guy. He's a veteran. He's a Democrat.
He's really,
He's such a funny guy. I wish that the guy had a better chance. He's just kind of